Welcome to the HerbWorks podcast featuring Roger Drummer, the formulator at herbworks.com. An educator in the field of nutrition and Chinese herbalism, Roger has a unique ability to keep things simple by taking all the guesswork out of complicated health issues. HerbWorks is committed to helping you improve your health and enhance your life through herbs and common sense.
Welcome to the HerbWorks podcast. I'm Laura Shakti.
And Roger Drummer.
So what's our topic today, Mr. Drummer?
Ketogenic diet, stress, and adaptogenic herbs.
Oh, that sounds great. So let's start with ketogenic diet. What is it?
Well, what we're going to be doing today actually is not only covering the ketogenic diet, but we're going to be talking about the different foods you need for it. We're going to be talking about the role of blood sugar, because that's the most important thing you need to know about the ketogenic diet, and then how stress plays a role in that, and how adaptogens can actually help you to achieve ketosis and regulate your blood sugar.
Okay, you're going to have to convince me, though, of why I should want to achieve ketosis. So let's go. What's the ketogenic diet? Why should I care?
Well, the ketogenic diet is probably, in the U.S. right now, the hottest diet. In fact, some people are calling it a fad. There was a famous exercise.
Now, you look a little upset when you say that. Some people are calling it a fad.
No, I'm not upset. All diets are fads, no matter what it is. Believe me, diets are diets. It's all about striving to get to a certain state of health. I don't believe it's a fad. I think it's a really important lifestyle diet that's been taken a little bit more mainstream than maybe it needs to be. But hey, it's America. That's what we do with everything. The thing about the ketogenic diet is that it's a diet that fixes your metabolism, which I find very fascinating because it's centered on changing the way you metabolize certain nutrients and certain groups of foods. And, I don't know, people probably have forgot about this. I just thinking about this. 5-6 years ago, everybody talked about metabolic syndrome, right?
Okay.
You don't hear about it anymore. Metabolic syndrome was a syndrome to where you were almost becoming obese, you almost had diabetes, you almost had high blood pressure, you almost had, all these different conditions, but you weren't there yet. You were on the cusp, right? You were pre-everything.
Pre-everything.
And they didn't know which one you were going to get first, right? But you're probably going to get them all because your metabolism was messed up. So now, they don't talk about it much, but the ketogenic diet is kind of the perfect way to fix your metabolism because it goes right to the core issue of how you metabolize energy, and that's the part of the cell that makes energy. So ketogenic diet basically is fixing your metabolism, and it's actually switching it. So a ketogenic diet is the opposite of what the medical establishment has been telling us for 30 years. They tell you to eat low fat and eat a lot of carbs, and ketogenic diet is no carbs
and a lot of fat.
Eat a lot of fat.
Which sounds a lot more fun.
It sounds fun, and then so it fits right into this low carb phase that everybody's going through, and I find it to be kind of amazing in the results you can get from it. But even though I've been in ketosis now for 2 years, I think that a lot of people that try it don't need to be that strict with it. They can do a mild ketosis, what they call nutritional ketosis. There's actually two different kinds. There's nutritional ketosis and there's medical ketosis.
Okay.
I did medical ketosis.
For a medical reason?
For a medical reason. But nutritional ketosis isn't as strict, and it's actually just eating a high-fat diet and a lot of nutritious food. This is the thing you have to do. You have to realize it is about eating a lot of nutritious food.
Right. So why did you become interested in the ketogenic diet?
Well, I did it because I ended up with cancer. And
you are like one of the least likely people that anyone would ever think would have cancer because of your lifestyle, your health, everything else. People
get cancer. So I just was researching it, and I had a friend who had done it for his particular cancer, and he told me about it. And he had actually told me about it months before, and I thought it was too radical for me. I enjoyed food that too much to cut out everything. But then when I got cancer and I researched it, it made sense to me. Because basically, Ketogenic means your body's running on a ketone, which is a water-soluble fat that your body naturally makes, and instead of sugar. So you're changing your metabolism to what almost everybody in the entire planet is. They're sugar-burning people, right? They use insulin, drive it into their cells. They metabolize their foods into sugar, runs everything. You're switching that metabolism over to where your body just runs off of fats, particularly ketones. And it's a natural process that your body can do if you were starving. So you have to simulate the idea that you're going into ketosis, a slight starvation fasting mode, and then your body switches its metabolism. And once you do that, the whole theory with cancer is that cancer absolutely can only run off of sugar, and it requires 18 times as much sugar to run a cancer cell as a normal cell. So if you take the sugar away, it basically has nothing to eat and it starves. So that's why I did it, and it worked for me. It was great.
You had a very unexpected cancer diagnosis that kind of came
Stage 3
overnight.
bladder cancer. Went on an herb program, ketogenic diet, switched my meditation up a bit, and boom, got rid of it over the summer. And I've been cancer-free now for almost 20 months, something like that.
Which is wonderful.
So, but the ketogenic diet, it's becoming even more popular just outside of the medical world with just people that exercise a lot, people that want to lose weight, because you are switching your metabolism and you are going on a very low-carb diet.
Now, it sounds to me like this could be kind of tricky in a few ways. First of all, eating fat sounds great, right? People are thinking, yay, more fish, more avocado. At least that's what I'm thinking. But then this part about no sugar and having a long time when you don't eat, this quote, trick your body into starvation mode so that it burns fat. That doesn't sound like fun
that's
at all.
Intermittent fasting, and it actually is much easier than you think. When people hear that, when you say to somebody, some days you don't eat for 12 to 16 hours, when I was doing it, I never ate for 16-hour stretches every single day. Now people go, well, how could you possibly do that, right? Well, for 8 or 9 of those hours I was asleep. And so you eat dinner at 5 or 6 at night. Let's say you had dinner at 5 o'clock, right? Well, 5 o'clock in the morning, you've gone 12 hours. And so by noon, which is another 7, you've gone 19 if you can make it to noon. It's not that hard, really. If you sleep in until 8 and you go to 10, hey, that's a long time. That's 17 hours if you had dinner at 5, right? So,
but why
not
so
that
long?
tough.
I mean, was that just part of your medical ketosis, or
No,
is that for
that was
anyone
part of the
on
that
the...
was part of the medical ketosis. Although it's healthy for anyone to do that, but as part of a medical plan, the reason for it is that when you go that long, after about 12 hours of fasting, your body kicks in a natural process by which it actually looks for disease-damaged cells and just clears it out. Your body's just trained to do its own thing, right? It's called autophagy. You're kind of sitting around, you're going 14, 16 hours, which really isn't hard when you're in ketosis because you don't feel hunger the same way. It's completely different. It's because you're running on fat. And so you're just sitting there realizing your body's cleaning up debris. And it's kind of nice.
So is that part of a normal dietary ketogenic diet, or is this 16 hours of no food thing a medical thing?
The 16 hours more the medical thing, but in normal ketosis, it's always suggested that you try to eat within an 8-hour window every day, so your body has a period of time where it can actually do its other processes, cleaning things up. And
right. I can see how that would be difficult, though, for people that, say, work in the evening, come home late, or people that don't sleep a whole lot.
Well, you can adjust your schedule, and you have to do something about your sleep if you don't sleep a lot, because that's the worst thing for your health. But there's things you can do for all those things. And, it's hard for someone to understand ketogenesis if they've never done it, because they're in the process of eating sugar all the time and carbohydrates. And they're relating how hungry they would feel on that type of diet without eating for a while, as opposed to how they will feel on a ketogenic diet when they haven't eaten for a while. And it's completely different. And you don't get hungry if you're doing the diet right. What I experienced was I got a little tired if I didn't eat enough, so I ate some more. And so that's a lot different, but I never got real hungry on the diet because I'm running on a fat supply, which is different, and it was pretty fascinating.
So how do you know? How do you know that you converted the way your metabolism was running to running on fats? How do you know this?
Well, you feel different, but I had a meter, and if you're going into medical ketosis, you have to buy a little meter. It cost me $20. I measure my blood and ketones 3 times a day, so I know where my blood sugar was, because that's the most important thing with ketosis. You have to track your blood sugar. But if you're just doing nutritional ketosis, all you really have to do is have a 12-hour window that you don't eat. So if you eat dinner at 7 o'clock, don't eat breakfast till 7 or 8 o'clock, right? Give yourself a little intermittent fast. And then the next day, your first meal, make sure you eat a small amount of protein and a bunch of fat, and you're already right into nutritional ketosis. Because even if you're just doing nutritional ketosis, you're regulating your blood sugar, so it's somewhere between 80, let's say 80 and 85, somewhere in there all the time.
All right, so why should I care so much about regulating my blood sugar?
Well, blood sugar is really kind of the determining factor of almost all chronic disease now. In fact, remember I mentioned metabolic syndrome at the beginning. All those different diseases. In fact, you can look at the top 6 causes of death in the United States as far as chronic illness, and they're all related to the body's inability to regulate blood sugar. So your blood sugar issues are triggering your inflammation, and the inflammation's kind of at the core of everything. And so if you can learn how to regulate your blood sugar, then you can pretty much have a life that's a little bit freer of chronic illness, and your chances of getting a long-term chronic illness go way down, because your body, in a state of balanced blood sugar, regulates itself much better, and it handles almost every fluctuation much better, and it takes care of itself. But sugar throws it way off. And so blood sugar for a ketogenic diet is the number one thing. Like for me, I had to be under a certain number of blood sugar. I always wanted to be at least 72 or lower, and my ketones had to be a certain level. And if I got my ketones up to 5, my blood sugar always regulated. And so that's kind of how I measured it and how I did everything. I was usually in the 60s somewhere, and had really good levels of ketones.
All right, so people that don't want to go this medical route of measuring their blood sugar, measuring their ketones, fasting for 16 hours, there's a different version of this, which is what you're saying.
It's just
is kind
nutritional
of
ketosis.
Nutritional ketosis using the ketogenic diet.
Eating a fat-based diet.
Okay, so what would that look like? And you were saying the benefits of this would be having, in general, lowered blood sugar, which is going to lead to less inflammation.
Less inflammation, yes.
And so that's a really good thing.
And the ketogenic diet, contrary to most beliefs, everybody thinks, I just get to eat a lot of animal products, right? No,
you're a vegetarian.
It's not actually true. You don't eat a lot of animal products or even a lot of protein. Because on the ketogenic diet, if you overeat protein, it just turns to sugar. Most people don't realize this about anything. It just turns to sugar. So you want to have a piece of protein, 25 to 30 grams with a meal. You want to have a lot of fat, and most of your calories from fat.
You're not talking about potato chips.
No, I'm talking about avocados. I'm talking about olive oil, which is 2 of the biggies, and nuts, raw nuts, different things like that, eggs, with the runny yolks, that type of thing is really good for you. And that type of fat helps to curb your appetite, gives you long-term calories to burn. But here's the key to the whole thing. The key to the whole thing is that you can't combine a high-fat diet with a bunch of carbs. It's okay if you eat all the carbs you want from vegetables, things like chard and kale and broccoli and celery and all these different low glycemic vegetables. But you can't be eating a high-fat diet with a bunch of bread, a bunch of pasta, a bunch of those things, because your body is either going to be burning fat or it's going to be burning sugar. When you mix the two, one of them doesn't get used up. And so the other one causes damage in your arteries.
Well, what about the nutrition that we need from carbohydrates?
Well, you need very little of
Pasta,
it,
grain,
actually.
quinoa. I mean, certainly those provide something in our diet that we need.
It provides some sugar. I will live the rest of my life probably eating pasta maybe once or twice. I don't really care. I don't need pasta. I don't need to make sugar. Your body will make sugar that it needs. If it absolutely needs it, it makes it instantly anyway. It's part of a process your liver goes through. And so, it's not what we thought as the main thing we need to do all the time is this ability to make sugar, because we now know we have a different way of creating this metabolic state to where we're just burning ketones.
How does this affect anyone that's diabetic, though?
Well, if you're diabetic, if you're type 1 diabetic, you should probably find a doctor who will help you with the diet.
Because if you're type 1, you don't have a pancreas. I mean, your pancreas does not work as a gland in your body.
So you're not making insulin.
You're not making insulin at all.
Well, on the ketogenic diet, you don't actually need insulin. So it's not like it would be bad for you. But you still want to have somebody, a health professional, help you with it. Mm-hmm. If you're type 2, you're probably someone who's just messed up your metabolism. You have metabolic syndrome. And you can regulate your sugar quite easily through your diet. And this type of diet would regulate your sugar quite easily. But again, most people starting out, if you do have a medical condition, there's enough practitioners now, enough nutritionists and people out there that if you want to do it and have them help you, it's not hard to find somebody to do it. So once you find somebody to help you, if that's what you want to do, it's pretty easy to actually start the basis of this and have your body begin to regulate its own blood sugar. And there's some herbs you can always find to help you with that. And it's great if you're starting out. If you're not someone like me who's totally into everything and always experimenting, then just find some help, because now it's becoming so popular that it's easy to find help. It's easy to find books on it, all those different things. But the number one thing to remember, even if you're not going to ever try the ketogenic diet, is that there's the number one thing you can do on your own is just with food is regulate your blood sugar.
Well, let's talk about stress in relation to that for a moment, because I've had family members that are diabetic, and I know that the amount of stress that someone is experiencing can make their blood sugar wildly fluctuate. I mean, it's crazy.
It is. It's a huge issue with regulating your blood sugar. Everybody's stressed. That's what I specialize in, stress, adaptogenic herbs. I have an herb company based on helping people deal with stress. It was fascinating when I got cancer that how my own formula for stress actually helped me with my blood sugar, because once I relaxed, I found it easy to go into ketosis. And it made a huge difference. And then I started trying to look up and read up on the few people at that time that were publishing things and writing about stress. And each one of them said, my blood sugar always tests the worst right after I drive to work. Or my blood sugar is always the worst right after I read my emails.
Or look at the news or do something else. Right,
because you have this emotional response. You have a little bit of a stress response. Once you have a stress response, your body says to yourself, I don't need to use insulin to clear out blood sugar because this guy needs it to fight or flight, right? And so what sugar you do have just stays there.
Well, isn't that why people emotionally crave sugar when they're stressed?
Well, it's part of the syndrome, but they emotionally crave sugar mainly because it changes the way they feel as fast as anything. Sugar will change the way you feel as fast as alcohol will. It's just, you reach for that candy bar, you take one bite, you feel different before you're done with that candy bar. It's really quick. Same way with a beer, you feel different before you finish a whole beer. But that's the thing with most addictions, whether it's smoking, drugs, alcohol, sugar, they're all instantly changing the way you feel. And if you don't feel good most of the time, you're always looking for something to change the way you feel. And then the things you use to change the way you feel become habits and addictions because you've been using them for so long. Here's the thing. This is why I always talk to people when I sit down with someone about stress. I always get into their diet, because if you don't make corrections in your diet to where you know you're always eating certain foods, you're always eating a nutritious diet, you're dealing somewhat with your stress because I'm giving you some herbs for stress, you're dealing with all these issues, then you have nothing to fall back on when you become stressed, right? So like with that person, they were an addict, they fell back on their alcohol and their drugs and their sugar, right? But now that you've corrected your diet, you already know your next meal is going to be this. It doesn't raise your blood sugar. You're actually feeling better all the time, and you don't get the highs and the lows because you've regulated your system. This is what a lifestyle of dealing with your stress, dealing with your food issues, all that does for you. It evens things out. You don't have these extreme fluctuations that you're always grabbing something to change something because you feel good most of the time.
How do adaptogenic herbs work with this idea of reducing the role of stress and its relationship to how the blood sugar goes up and down or how your emotions go up and down?
Well, here's the thing with adaptogens and why they work so well. I often tell people they're nature's perfect food for today's modern living, because what is the big issue with modern living today? It's stress. Everybody's stressed out. But stress isn't a bad thing. You have the ability, your body has the ability to regulate your stress. You have a response, then you have a recovery phase, right? The problem today is that we overreact to all these little stressors, like the guy driving to work, the emails, the person at work that you don't like, your boss, somebody looked at you, you're in a store.
The person that cuts you off
the
on the freeway.
cashier isn't fast enough at the grocery store, all these different things. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. You're having many, many stress responses. And most people don't realize when they eat a diet full of sugar and junk food that they're actually allergic to 5 or 6 things they're eating, and you have a stress response every time you eat a food that you're allergic to. So your body's always having stress responses, and it loses its ability to shut it off and recover from it. So you've lost the flow. Your body is designed to flow through life. It's designed to have a stress, drop it, move on to the next thing. Recover. Your body gets flooded with a different set of hormones. Your body goes into fix itself stage. Your adrenals get their energy back. You go into the next thing until you have another stressor. But we miss all that because we're stressed out so much, right? So adaptogens.
We're in a constant state.
So adaptogens basically make sure that the whole program is working in your body and you can flow in and out of it again because you're healthy. Your glands are healthy. When you've been stressed out for way too long periods of time, you fall into what's known as chronic stress. That means your body loses the signaling mechanism that says, hey, the stressor's over. And even though you fall asleep at night, you don't go into a deep sleep because you never shut off the stress response. So you're in a 24-hour cycle of little stress responses. Even waking up is a stress response. People don't realize that. Your cortisol rises, you get up. It's a good one, right? So this is what adaptogens do. They feed into that part of your system, homeostasis, that regulates everything. And then because it works properly, it shuts off at night when you go to sleep. You go into a deeper sleep. Your adrenals come back. You have a waking up process. You go back into the same rhythms your body is naturally supposed to be doing because you're taking things like adaptogenic herbs that regulate everything. This is why herbs like ashwagandha, rhodiola, reishi mushroom have become so popular these days because they actually are nurturing. They help build your system up, and stress breaks your system down. Back in the 90s when I was working in an herb shop in LA, if you even mentioned to someone that they were stressed, they got mad at you. Today it's like you want to tell everybody you're stressed so you belong to the big club, right? Well, back then it was like, oh no, I'm not stressed.
Are adaptogenic herbs safe for all ages of people to take?
Yeah, adaptogenic herbs are completely safe. There's nothing about an adaptogenic herb that would be unsafe for a teenager to take. There is one herb that they keep mentioning as an adaptogen, and I wish they wouldn't because it's ginseng. Ginseng, this is kind of funny about ginseng. Ginseng is one of the ultimate adaptogens, but only if you're buying wild ginseng that's extracted right. but no one sells that. It's a very unique specialty item that you have to pay thousands of dollars for. The ginseng you buy in the health food store, in most products you would buy, is more of a stimulant type of energy building thing. It's still a good herb, but it's not the adaptogen that regulates glandular response. But adaptogenic is a popular word, so they put it on dozens and dozens of things. But in my own opinion, there's only 4 or 5 really good adaptogens that you can actually find anywhere and use. And those are the ones I use in Inner Peace and TianChi. You have ashwagandha, rhodiola, schizandra, reishi mushroom, eleuthero. Those are 5 major adaptogens. They all work on regulating the HPA-axis, so they regulate your stress response. They have an effect of helping your body go into a phase where it actually builds itself up. And so even though each one of those herbs might not be an herb that we say, hey, that's good for your blood sugar, like a sugar regulating herb, but long term, yes, it is, because it helps your response and you relax. And once you relax, your body goes into regulating its own sugar.
So which of your formulas, the adaptogenic formulas, would you recommend for people, or have you seen a lot of success with people who want to do a ketogenic diet, who want to lower their blood sugar, lower stress, and have a healthier lifestyle?
Well, if you were really stressed out and you were doing the diet and wanted to make sure that you were calmer, then Inner Peace is a great formula. Mm-hmm. You can take it at any time during the day. The funny thing about Inner Peace is you could actually take it with coffee or tea. You think that's just doesn't make any sense to you, but what you're doing, though, is calming your nervous system response. You can still have a cup of tea or something with that and have a nervous system calmed response. Mm-hmm. And it changes the way your brain energetically communicates, so you feel calmer and clearer and open. And TianChi, that's based on adaptogenic herbs too. If you're on a ketogenic diet, I would probably take my TianChi before lunch, because you're going to be doing your little intermittent fasting up until probably 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And you might want to break it then with that. But they're both perfectly fine to be taking on the diet.
And what about the sleep product?
Well, that helps if you're extremely stressed and can't sleep, because if you can't sleep, it's going to be really hard to go into ketosis. A lot of people,
that's what I'm thinking.
A lot of people complain that they wake up and they don't know why their blood sugar is real high. Well, it's probably your liver goes through this process of making blood sugar if you need it. So something happened. A lot of times it's just stress. You didn't do the diet as well as you could have the day before. You're a little more stressed. If you don't sleep, your blood sugar goes up. And, it's kind of funny. They've done surveys on people that don't sleep. The number one food they all consume the next day is ice cream.
Ice cream?
Ice
really?
cream, yeah. Ice cream. Ice cream is not on the ketogenic diet.
Why not? It's fat.
High fat, high sugar.
Oh, because of
high fat, high sugar. It doesn't go together.
So you can eat sour cream, but not ice cream?
A little bit. If you're getting technical, dairy products actually have an effect of raising blood sugar, even though they're high fat. But you can use a small amount of them to flavor things, stuff like that. But you don't want to sit down and just have a cheese meal, even though it's fat, right? So there's all these little tricks you have to get into once you do it. But the thing that most people still don't realize is that it is a lower protein diet, high fat, a lot of great greens. You have to include the greens with the fiber in it to make it a healthy diet.
So today we've been talking about the ketogenic diet, stress, adaptogens, why we should be interested in it, why we should care about it, the blood sugar. It's kind of a really big subject. If people wanted more information on how to possibly start a ketogenic diet or resources for that, what do you recommend?
Well, you can go to my blog at herbworks.com. I have a lot of articles and a few videos on ketogenic diet and the things that I did when I was having my health issue with it. And I do give some references to great books and all those things. And you can find that at herbworks.com.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you as always. This is Laura Shakti.
And Roger Drummer. Thanks for tuning in.